map, so it kind of pinpointed exactly where we were. So I thought that was pretty neat, just to tie them all together. So we had the opportunity to do a service project. We went to a children's home, and these are children who have been taken away from their families. So that's why in the pictures you don't see their faces, because we would not want their parents finding out where these children are, because they're in dangerous situations. So it was really nice that we got to go and we got to visit their homes, we got to see their rooms and just get a day in their lifestyle. But we also got to bring them science. Science experiments, we taught them what we could and what they would understand because they were very young. What we did was we decided to go on Pinterest and on Google, and we found the best science experiments that we could do with 4 children that were their age. And we actually tried them out first, and so that's how we kind of weeded out our list. And we went, we got supplies, and we had oobleck, a balloon rocket, bleeding skittles, lava lamps, bubble art, and Orbeez squishy balls. And so the kids really, really enjoyed the squishy balls and the lava lamps, just because they were able to throw them around. They were really active, they're young, so it was a really nice experience. And we also got to do the bubble art, which we put acrylic paint, water, and soap, and so they got to blow them through a straw, and then they put their papers on top. So you can see in the little blue dish, that's the bubble art. And then we did the bleeding Skittles, where you add warm water and Skittles, so they all just kind of went to the middle so they could see the dyes come off of the Skittles. And that was really neat. They were sticking their fingers in it, and they were eating the Skittles. It was fun. And so then we also did the balloon rocket. So what we did was we blew up a balloon and we taped it around a straw, and we attached it to that string and we let it go. So they were able to race their balloons, they were able to watch them collide with each other. It was really fun, especially for the boys. And we also did the lava lamps, where we got food coloring and oil, and you can see how it's kind of lined up right there in the top right picture, and that was before. So they got these little straws and they just put their finger or their thumb on the top, and they just transferred it to their different cups, and they made the bottom right, which is their actual, those were their lava lamps that they got to make. And so this was a really great experience for us. It was great to interact with the kids, and we were absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. And so the next thing that we did was with CETASET. CETASET is a company with biomedical engineers. I had no idea that engineers had anything to do with how a hospital runs. I've never thought about anyone besides the people who specialize in medicine. I always thought that you go to the doctor, you see your nurse, you see your doctor, you go to your pharmacist, and that was it. But after this presentation with Oscar Misla, he taught us about what goes on behind the scenes, how they get your information through their systems to the doctors, to the pharmacists, so they can make sure that you aren't taking medicine that you're allergic to, so they can make sure that the people who are in intensive care constantly have that electricity going to them. And that's what he does. He actually owns a company, and he has a wife who is the vice president, but he does call her his boss. And they both run this company together. They're not just out of Puerto Rico. They have one here. They have, in the States, they have one in Puerto Rico, which is their headquarters, and then I believe it's Brazil and one other place that they had to open up when Hurricane Maria hit. And then him and his brothers, they own the Ponce Leones, which is their professional basketball team. And so we were able to be invited at the end of our presentation, and we just thought we were going to the game, and we actually got to sit courtside. So that was so neat for us. There's pictures of us right there. We were stoked the whole night. It was an amazing experience because there the music's a little louder, everyone's a little happier. It was just an incredible experience for us. And that's a picture of the basketball players doing their thing. And we also got to go and see and talk to people about ethics and malpractice. When I went to Puerto Rico, I thought that I wanted to go into law. I wanted to be a medical malpractice lawyer. After Puerto Rico, I decided that's not what I want to do. But I do want to go into medicine, so not all hope is lost. So we did a class at the university that we're staying at. La Católica is what the locals call it, and it works. With our professor, they actually gave us cases. And so we each got our own cases of the issues that people actually do run into when they are working in medicine. And so we were able to go ahead and decide for ourselves what we thought we would do in those situations and discuss it with each other. And there were a lot of controversial opinions, but I think that every person thought that they were genuinely doing what was best. And I think that's really important for us to be exposed to, because we all kind of want to do something that's biomedical or medical. And so just being able to realize that it's not just you go and you see your patient, you write their prescription, and you send them off. there's actually so much thought that goes into it because you cannot just see your patient as a number. And we talked to some of the people on the ethics committee at the hospital there, and they were the ones who really brought that to our attention, because if you are working in medicine, especially when you're first out of college, you just want to get in there, get your money, go throughout your days, and that's it, so you can pay off your loans. But when people become a number, that's when people get hurt. When you actually don't establish a connection with your doctor, that's when people die. And it's really serious, and I had never thought about the ethics that goes behind it, and especially at a Catholic university, when you deal with young pregnancies, you deal with people with abortions, you deal with people who are not able to support their own breathing, the people who have no brain activity. What do you do? And what do you do as a doctor? That way you can sleep at night and say, I did the best that I could for that patient. And so we also got to talk to someone who is a doctor and a lawyer. And he talked to us for about an hour at the university. He came to us, and he specializes in infectious diseases. And so he was in between different houses and just treating people and meeting with them. And it was really nice that he was able to come and talk to us, because he is a malpractice lawyer, but he does not practice. And after I was talking to him, I kind of realized that wasn't what I wanted to do, but I think it was really for the best. He was able to talk to us about what can happen if you are a doctor, and if you do think of everybody as a number. On the total opposite side, when you don't do what is ethically and morally right, he's the one who kind of told us, hey, you're going to get sued. And he went to school, he figured out how it works, so that was a really good experience for us as well. And finally, the effects of Hurricane Maria. So when Hurricane Maria hit, it was a Category 5, and it took power out from the entire island. Some places, they did not get power for an entire year. And although it was horrible for the people to go through, it was horrible for them to live without food, without gas, without AC, but it was really, really bad for the medical side of it. The hospitals, they couldn't open because there was only a certain amount of gas that was on the island, and if you didn't get your gas, you couldn't make it to work. So even if you did make it to the hospital, if you were badly injured during the hurricane, who were you going to see? Because the nurses couldn't come in. The doctors couldn't come in, and if they could, they were staying there. And so CDSET actually opened up a mobile van, and that's what they used to be able to get that care to the people who needed it. They were able to travel throughout the island and meet with different people, give them the resources that they need. And she talked about Casa Pueblo. Casa Pueblo was one of the only places who had power in the mountains. And so a lot of the people who do take medicine daily, and it does need to be refrigerated, like people who are diabetic, they have to refrigerate their insulin. They can't just carry that with them. That can't sit out in the Puerto Rican heat. So for them to be able to go to Casa Pueblo and say, hey, I need my medicine refrigerated or I'm not going to be able to survive, it was really great that they were solarly powered and they were able to help all of those people that needed help. But even afterwards, up to today, there are still people who, they have just been completely wiped out of the system. So doctors were having to try and figure out where their patients were. They were having to try and figure out how their patients were doing after not talking to them for 6 months, for a year, and a lot of their patients had passed. And so the doctors still are trying to reevaluate the patient's health, and they're still trying to get them back into their systems, still trying to get them to where they need to be, because once you're off of your medication, especially if you are terminally ill, it is a big deal for you to finally get back on. They have to up their dosage, or they have to change the medication, because you can't just pick up where you left off. So that was a really great experience to be able to talk to different people about what they did in the medical field and how they were able to handle this catastrophe and this horrible thing that happened to so many people. So. Yeah.
I'm Mia. I'm the only animal science major that went on this trip.
All right.